Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, Debunking Mythology. Sattology means science of truth, the study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which is science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. So today, the most of the world has created false celebrities. And tomorrow's Sunday topic is there. Do join me live also on Sundays, because Sunday shows are me only speaking there. And I try to get as many references before I speak. And do join our courses, 12x Debunking Mythology course and Yoga certification course. And we are also working on Yoga Alliance, Sattology Yoga Alliance nationally, which will be based on true teachings of Patanjali. So I have a very great friend. I call him great because he does wonderful researches, original thoughts, and deliberates and questions himself, asks me references. He doesn't have to ask me references. And that is a way to grow your knowledge, because you grow your knowledge in a community. So he has created a community also. So let us welcome Nilesh Oak, who is a researcher, acharya, and also a guru to many people. Namaskar and welcome.
Aditya ji. Yeah, let's talk about false celebrities. And the celebrities are there in individuals, but you talk about the individuals maybe, or the phenomenon of false celebrities among individuals, and I'll talk about among the false celebrities among the systems and how that has destroyed ancient civilizations.
There is a very beautiful shloka of Bhagavad Gita. It's called Uttama Purushasthonya Paramatme Udharita. Yo loka trayamavishya vivartya avyaya
Ishvara. Yeah.
And the second one is the following one is Yasmad Akshirati Toham Akshradhapi Cha Uttama Ato Asmi
Lokavedecha.
Cha Pratita Purushottama. So the 15th chapter, Krishna is saying that Purushottam, the ultimate celebrity, is he. So he's not saying that, he's saying the Vedas declare him, Veda declare him, all the intelligent people declare him. Now, we are talking about the highest level of what is the Purushottam. But nowadays, see, the human society needs leaders. It needs Shrestha, not leaders. Purushottam, nobody can be Purushottam except one person, Krishna. But we need leaders in the society to follow. We need some inspirational leadership, people who inspire us to do good work, good karma. Unfortunately or fortunately, the Western civilization, beginning from Socrates, because that's where they begin actually, today's society. And in fact, the words like constitutional republic was Aristotelian an idea in the Republic he wrote, because he hated democracy, Athenian democracy, which killed his Param Guru, Socrates. And also he saw the struggle of Plato, and he saw the struggle of other people who were there, in which he hated democracy, and he talked about constitutional republic. And we see in the political discourse the same thing coming in the US also, where the US, many Americans are claiming their constitutional republic, not a democracy. Okay? Because democracy is considered anarchist to large extent, whereas America is selling democracy to the whole world. Now, just giving an example that we need thought leaders, we need leaders inspire, like you are inspiring so many people to read Ramayana, Mahabharata scrutinizingly. And we need such leaders. But the society today has got into the charisma mode because of social media and the mainstream media also, where all the news anchors or the news readers, I call them, have become the news in itself. So they are interpreting everything and presenting it as news, and which is going on. Another type of leadership is the media. Like what people see in Hollywood movies is just a representation of what those people want to convey as per a script. But you see people thronging them. And same happens with the Bollywood. Bollywood people, like many of those people whom the community thought they are the leaders, turned out to be like their enemies who are working behind the scenes. So a lot of plantation is happening. A lot of people are being planted. Now, if you look at the people like you and me, who are nobodies as compared to these people, we have to depend on them for our work getting accepted by other people. But ultimately, the real leadership is driven by a simple mother in the house, a father in the house who is sincerely working hard for the children. So, where is this leadership lost in the celebrity culture?
Okay, well, a loaded question, Adityaji, for me, and too many thoughts flying around in my brain. But let me see if I can regroup them. You mentioned Aristotle and how he felt the desire to change the social setup, at least philosophically, the priority of one over the other. So that's important point, because we, just like people get high on drugs, people can get high on this faulty idea of a democracy. I mean, you understand the principle, what the idea is, like for people, of people, by people, all that. And yeah, there is a substance in it. But see, for example, the concept of like a Prajatantra was there. Okay, talk of Ramarajya. In fact, there is much advantage, because a shasak, a administrator, can be very good, can be very bad, can be extremely incompetent. I mean, look at the status of America for now. I'm saying, not talking about any party lines, going beyond party lines. I mean, it's like a truth is right in front of your eyes. Now, some people will choose to see it, other people will not choose to see it, which has to go, which used to frustrate me. But now, once you understand Sattva, Raja, Tama, like, the three modes and how everyone is a combination of it, and then to that add the Shadripus, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, and then, that twists us. Even when we see it, we don't want to believe it. So that's one side of it. Um, you mentioned like how in the West, the Greeks are considered as like the ideals. Well, one of the thing I should mention, this is from a historical truth perspective, it's very important to bring it out. For a very long time, and by long time, I'm saying, think of like 12th century, 13th century, 14th century, but around that time, until then, frankly, the West, I mean, Christianity or the Western Europe, not many people know that, but Western Europe looked at Romans and Greeks, tried to put them down. I mean, they have their own inferiority complex, just like Indians carry their own inferiority complex in front of English or Western individuals, right? And we'll talk about the false celebrities. False celebrities are there in individuals. False celebrities are there in the systems. Which system you consider as a superior? Okay, so for example, Western education, people, of course, here also, I see Adityaji in my, I mean, that's why I said my response will just go too wide and too far. Here in American communities, I mean, in America, but among Indian communities, now my kids are, already out of the what you call the basic up to 12th grade education system, one in university, one working. But when suppose they are in the school system, and I'm not talking of like Europeans, American Europeans here, I'm talking of Indian Americans, like American Indians and Indian Americans, but I'm talking of someone like you and me, coming from India here, and their families. Of course, if you look at the infrastructure in American schools, like I'm talking of elementary, middle school, high school, looks great, right? But so is actually university. And yeah, for some reason, they were all great places. I mean, still there are pockets. But then what you also see in the basic education system is like it's all what you call false celebrities. There are false rankings. Every school you talk about, I mean, see, that's why I said I'll just go all over. Like I have moved in different cities within America, and sometime when I go to that city and I'm looking for my house, where to buy my house, and I will say somebody I know, my colleague in that area, I say, okay, why do you chose that area? Just trying to understand the logistics, what could be the advantages, and it is a common reference, sort of. Oh yeah, the schools are good. Now, this you hear so much, you start wondering, so are there like a bad schools? Of course, there are bad schools, but everywhere it is marketed in that way. Same thing with, say, celebrities in India, right? Yad yad acharate sreshta. Okay, that is what Krishna is referring to. But who is a sreshta? And Bhishmacharya talks about it under a apad dharma. The person who is just in the limelight, the person who has lots of money, the person who is like in people's faces, maybe it's like a Bollywood nonsense, that person is considered Sreshta. And common people, that's why we call them common people. People tend to just follow this. So those are the challenges. But beyond individuals, and I would want you to talk more of individuals. Not that I don't want to, but that's a ongoing subject. I mean, it never ends. So is what I'm going to talk about. Just I'll mention that one point and stop, Aditya, and give it back to you, which is you're talking false celebrities. I will say false celebration in the celebrities in the sense of a system. India may, so for example, like people will not, I have said it somewhere, I started some Marathi program and I said, if when I speak, now my Matrubhasha is a Marathi. Until 10th grade, I studied in Marathi, 100%. And in a small village where nobody speaks English, I mean, and but I lost touch now, right? So when I start speaking Marathi, it comes out, it comes out, I mean, I'm not happy with it. But people will not so much object to it. No issue. Even Hindi, which I struggle a lot because, it's like official way, I kind of never studied Hindi per se, you can say, although it was there as a subject. People will not go, oh, so you're like, you're doing a decent thing. Now, the false celebrities or the snobbiness, the inferiority, everything that comes, I'm talking of Indians, is that when it comes to English, there is that false, like a halo effect around the English to such an extent. And by the way, America is a good in a positive example for that. I will tell you, America, Canada, like where I spend now more part of my life than, in this lifetime. People are very accepting. I mean, sure, there are these all problems are there, right? But accent, I don't know, possibly even a single instance. And frankly, Europe also, Aditya anybody laughing at any of my accent. And there were nobody I'm claiming anywhere I'm close to a proper accent. I mean, what is a proper accent? In America, the way sometimes you say a certain word, and I won't go into the details, it will be another digression. But the way I would say that in Texas is not the same way people in Boston say it. But there is that acceptance. Sometimes they will not understand what I'm saying. I'll tell you the city that I live in. I'll not just name it. I mean, but people know it. I don't mean Atlanta, but the suburb of it. When I moved here and I was looking for the place, and we are standing right in that suburb. And also, hey, where are you planning to buy your house? And I would say, I'm planning to buy my house here, and they would say, where? So the way I would say this, people would not understand. That can happen. Finally, my real estate lady, she was born and, bred and born, everything right here. So I asked her, I said, Grace, I mean, she was very old, that time she was like a 70. I said, what's wrong with me? Well, why people don't understand? And she said, I lived 70 years of my life right here. Nilesh, you are saying it right. I don't know why people don't understand it, So my point is, again, just the last point on the false celebrity or that celebration aspect, or yad acharati shrestha, what is superior is English. If you want to see the inferiority complex of the Indians, is basically you speak English and see how they respond. I mean, they will just like say something, even the grammatical thing, the pronunciation. And yeah, they just like it. People tell me, some of the Indian TV anchors or whatnot, they speak good English. And I said, give me an example. I will not again go into detail. It will be digression. And I will not even say the words that they say. And I said, I tell them, guys, my English, forget my English. My English is bad. But what that person, the way that he or she pronounces is not the correct way, neither in America nor in UK. But again, the snobbery around the English, or around that, you can say the elitism, is so rampant that the people will look at that very fake anchor, okay, who is literally has no connection with the truth whatsoever, and look at that as someone to imitate. Yad acharati sreshta. Well, you can say that's the problem of a Kali Yuga. But back to you, Aditya ji.
So
thinking out of the
one thing really comes in the play, like for example, the recent Bollywood celebrities spoke against civil liberties. Now, civil
Hmm.
liberties is a Western wokist agenda. When people may not know that in USA also people are talking about democracy is dying.
Hmm.
At the same time, some people say, and I'm talking about unitary party, we are not political show, so we don't comment on politics, active politics. So only comment on the trends. We only comment on the discussion points and for analytical purposes. On the unitary party now, because I consider both the parties to be doing the same thing. Now the unitary party said we are constitutional republic, not a democracy. So gradually USA is moving away from democracy while it was selling democracy before, but now it is going to a constitutional republic, which means an organized setup which gives rights to people to vote, but
Hmm.
doesn't want people to depend on the outcome. This is actually
Hmm.
we're going towards.
Hmm.
So now the celebrity definition is changing. Now most of the Hollywood movies you will see start talking about these things.
Hmm.
And most of the because it's impossible for a Western civilization to manage a diversity. They have never lived in diversity. They thrive on religious homogeneity.
Hmm.
That's what
Hmm.
they're you know if there is a little bit religious diversity or it is not acceptable to them because even like some one Afghan guy was telling me that I am an American citizen but I was
Hmm.
not picked up. Indian forces rescued him
Hmm. Hmm.
and he had to come to India to come back to
Yeah.
US.
Yeah.
So like you and I may be carrying American passport, but there is very little surety that we'll be rescued by American forces just
Yeah.
going by the skin color.
I
So
would say there is a surety that you or me will not be picked.
we will not be picked.
Right. I mean, there is that facade. See, America talks about, United States talks about melting spot, but Canada, for example, they talk about the mosaic and the multiculturalism or all that. But it is also cookie cutter type of thing. I mean, there is not deep thought that has gone behind it. I will say the intention possibly was right, but as you said, it is the main what you call homogeneous something, you use the word religious homogeneity something.
Religious homogeneity.
Yeah. So what happens is, I mean, I think I must have said it on your show before, but it's worth saying. When I started my career in Canada, and there was another. So at least I had come at age of 20 to Canada, I mean Americas, right? But there was another individual, almost of my age, must be like around 25 at that time. I was, he was slightly older than me, possibly. And we were at some big function, we were in cells. And so everyone's saying, so Nilesh, where did you grow up? Type of discussion, all that. Or so how long? So the question they ask him, they ask me something similar, but it's important what they ask him because he was born, bred, and brought up in Canada, right in Toronto area. And they also ask him, so Mr. Blah blah blah. Okay, so when did you come to this country? And I mean, he looked young, like he looked 25, like me, and but he had a good sense of humor, and very calmly and very with a smile, he said, what he said, Aditya he said, yeah, 25 years ago. Like, when did you come to this country? He's 25. He's born, bred, brought up in Toronto. He said, yeah, 25 years ago. So I'm saying that says it. And we have this whole thing how Irish became white and how Jews became white. And, we have all of this. And you'll see now that's happening with the Arab world, Rajiv Malhotra says being white has nothing to do with the skin color in some sense. Sometimes it is a privilege, like they decide who comes inside, who is inside that line, and who is considered to be outside. But back to you, sorry.
Yeah. So same thing is happening in India also. The elitist mindset, the celebrity culture. Like earlier in Mahabharata time, you'll see Krishna being surrounded by so many people. Pandavas, the Rishi Munis were the focus. They were surrounded, and gradually now the people are surrounding the actors, which is actor. You don't know when he's speaking the truth. He's always
Hmm.
acting. He can be acting very well in live.
Well, in fact, Aditya ji, see, just like thinking of a statecraft, like how it matters in a Ramarajya and Prajatantra, You said actors, you don't know when he's speaking or she's speaking the truth. I mean, how true? And that may have to do with their loyalties. Like, typically we see this with the whole Bollywood mafia. But for example, going back 7,500 years ago, and you see this into, of course, it's like whatever, 4,000 years before Chanakya's, whatever the timings are. But 7,000, I don't talk about a recent history. By recent, I mean last 4,000 years. I have not much to say. That's not my area of a study. I call that, see, the Western, they call it, what is that, pre-modern, modern, and this and that. So if there is a modern history, as I define it, Adityaji, that is after 2000 BC. Last 4,000 years, it's a mess as far as the history is concerned, and I consider that modern history. But back to the point, Chanakya says it. And I know some researcher who is actually putting Chanakya even before 4,000 years ago. Oh, it's still work in progress. But Mahabharata says, I mean, when Krishna is describing the security arrangements of Dwarka, what does he say? When what was his name? Was it Shalva who attacked Dwarka?
Yes, Shalva.
Yeah. So in that context, Krishna is describing, he says, anytime a war-like situation happens, and Indian government better listen to this, okay? Anytime, and even before, because India is by the external, very, what you call, deracinated forces, not deracinated, degraded forces, forgive me, has put India almost like on a war front all the time. So India should remember this, Indian government, all the thinkers or strategic statecraft folks should remember this. Krishna says that when the wartime occurred, I mean the war-like situation in Dwarka, immediately they removed all the actors, nartak, artists, and those folks. In an Indian context, I will say what they call the award wapasi. Those people who want to return the awards. Actually, when it happens, it's a good thing, because who are those idiots. They were given these awards when they did not deserve it. So when they return the awards, it's a perfect timing. But the point is, the actors, nartak, dance, they were removed. They were removed from the city for the reason that you just stated. You cannot trust exactly who is telling the truth and when they are telling the truth and when they are not telling the truth. But back to you.
True. Actually, those people were also given separate quarters to live, separate parts of the cities.
Which is a good idea, right?
Staying away from the main population. In fact, in Dwarka city, they were not there. They were brought in by boats. They were in Bay to Dwarka or on the coastal Dwarka.
That's why they were removed also, right? When something is happening. Yeah.
So we'll get back to your presentation. We'll get started.
Yeah, perfect. So what I want to talk about, slightly changing the gear, but maybe coming back to the subject, the same subject we were discussing, not so much celebration, but here is another problem, Aditya ji, and I thought, in a certain way, I want to address that. Now, as you are aware, I have done, as it happens, the blessings of Vyasadeva, blessings of Valmiki ji, Krishna, Rama, and everyone. People ask like, oh, how did you start here? You don't have that. You are just doing what you know. You can say Swadharma to the best of your ability. Not that we are perfect, but these blessings come to you. Meaning, what is your, what should be your area of a karma yoga, let's say, or whatever it is, it comes to you, right? And so in that way, I've landed into, say, astronomy area. Astronomy research portion of our epics and our narratives. What is interesting is, and therefore I'm saying this is not so much celebrities, but this is like what I want to say, if I'm looking for a right word, you can say the intellectual degradation. Okay, now that's not to say that things wouldn't have existed in a Dwapar and Treta and Kruta Yuga, but we are talking the percentage. Maybe it was a 1% and now we see 99% like that. The problem is, and the analogy I'll give you is this. So when you are Samartha Ramdas talks beautifully about it. When you're talking a certain subject, whether it is my YouTube talk, whether it is my actual live presentation to folks, and in the question answer session, even I have started questioning the question answer session. Should we even do it? Because people ask such idiotic questions. if they ask the question related to the subject, it's understandable. Then there is no foolish question. But suppose I will just complete a subject about certain thing, and say about say Arundhati Vasishta, some Mahabharata, and they will ask about some yuga, or they will ask about somewhere else. If I talk about astronomy, they will say, where is the archaeology evidence? Okay, which means Samartha Ramdaswami says, Samura Grantha Pailyavina Ugaच Tevizo Dushana Guna Sangata Avaguna. Suppose you're discussing, say, national parks in America, the person starts asking questions about national parks in South Korea. That is a one degradation of intellect. The second aspect I see is like this. What would be a simple example? And in that context, I want to present what I want to present. Say somebody has no ability to digest the milk. Okay, like the lactose intolerance, whatever people will call. We'll not go into the reasoning of it, but the point is, so skim milk, he doesn't like it. He says it does not taste good. Okay, but then you give him, say in American context, you might say cream or something like that, or I don't know what it is, like dulce. What is that? The dulce de treche or whatever, like some very sweet milk-based sweet, right? Or in the Indian context, I would say rabdi or basundi or something like this. And now they cannot digest it. So rabdi, basundi, they cannot digest, and a skim milk, they cannot. It doesn't taste good to them. Okay, these are tamasi lakshana. Okay, that's the problem. So now astronomy, they don't understand. I'm just saying rabdi, basundi, they cannot digest. It's very tasty, very powerful, but they don't understand. And then now you give them a skim milk and it doesn't taste good. When you talk about astronomy, they will say, where is archaeology? You show them archaeology and they don't even understand it. Okay, I'm going to show you. So this just came. Again, the blessings comes to you. It's like that. So let me start sharing. And in parts, we have, of course, discussed this before. So it's not like we have not discussed it. But in one place, and even what I'm going to show you today is not everything. Okay, it is, the evidence is so rich. Global evidence for Krishna's Dwarka, and this is purely from archaeology. Now, why do I say that? Again, that yad yad acharati sreshta problem. In India, like I'll get the comments, says, why do you not respect the archaeologist in India? I said, first, that is a very wrong statement. Statement itself is wrong. Why? Because I am an archaeologist too. Now, as soon as I say this, again, the digressary game begins. They say, oh, so I didn't know that you have a degree in archaeology. Well, I have yet to meet Aditya ji, a person with a degree in archaeology with a very superior intellect. Okay. Now, immediately, oh, I offended these people. No, I have many archaeologist friends. They understand the limitations of it. Even they understand the utter nonsense that goes in the field of archaeology. Okay, so there is this, but I am an archaeologist. Okay, my research is based on archaeology. Now, people have such a narrow definition of what archaeology is. Like, as you said, here we will talk about the multiculturalism and mosaic and all of that. But as you said, what is that? Religious, I forget the word, but the word that you use.
Religious homogeneity.
That's a very good, yeah. So they may talk different stuff, but all they are really looking for or trying to enforce or want to enforce is religious homogeneity, right? Basically,
No,
something
actually,
similar.
the thing is like people introduce politics in everything. Like the TV shows, the debates have spoiled their mind. Oh, there has to be Vad Vivad all the time. They don't understand. They're
Yeah,
doing Vad Vitanda, not Vivad.
correct. And the TV gives also them another false impression that there is nothing to be concluded ever. Keep
Yes.
on just fighting, and just people think that's the entertainment. That is another problem. Is serious issues of civilization, serious issues of life, of health and education. People look at this, the debate goes on the TV, look at it as an entertainment. Let's have ice cream in the hand and let's watch what's going on the TV type of thing.
Yeah.
Same issue. I mean, again, we have to educate our audience, guys. Don't look at it as entertainment. Yes, there is always an element. There is nothing wrong with entertainment. See, think of the Shakespeare's motley fool concept. In Marathi Vidushak, the court jester. Okay, the court jester's job is nobody can take the jibe at the king, but a court jester can. Okay, that's the beauty. In that sense, the entertainment makes sense. But just like the motley fool crowd, I mean, motley fools. What is the role of a motley fool? The whole Shakespearean thing, which in India we have used it in a different concept. You can tell the king what kings otherwise don't want to hear, or the administrator. By king, I mean that, which is what to the job is to educate, okay, to enlighten, but how? With element of entertainment. Okay, but anyways, that will be a digression. So global evidence. So what happens is, I talk astronomy, they say where is archaeology. You talk about archaeology, they will not say where is astronomy, because they don't understand it. Although it's such a perfect astronomy is such a perfect science, if they don't understand that, what is the chance of they understanding this? Even with archaeology, I'll show you some of the curves and some of the so-called researchers, what kind of utter nonsense they speak. Okay, I'll show you with this. But what I want to show you quickly is that the evidence for flooding and destruction of Krishna's Dwarka, and I think we have done a couple of episodes on this before, taking specific evidence. I will show you how rich is this evidence, and I want to tell people that that is not the end. I mean, at some point, the value of talking of more evidence simply goes away. In economics, what we call the now suddenly the word will not come to me, but the utility principle, right? I mean, you are hungry and therefore you start eating a slice of pizza, and you are totally like, oh my God, this is so good. Then you go to the second slice and you're still happy but not enjoying as much. Then you go to the third slice, so additive, whatever the right word in economics, that's not coming to me right now, but it's something like this. At some point, the evidence is so decisive that one additional evidence, what does it do? Unless it brings some additional insight from a education or learning perspective. Let me just give you a flavor of it, just a hint of it. And even that hint is how super rich that is. Okay, so global evidence for Krishna's flooding and destruction of Krishna's Dwarka in 6th millennium BC, about 7,500 years ago, in 5525 BC. Right here, I'm showing like two pieces of evidence. For example, Adityaji. Okay, what you see on the left. Oh, and by the way, what I will take you to Dwarka, but what I'm showing you here is not from a Dwarka. How impressive this evidence got to be. This is not a local event. This is not a local event that happened on the west coast of India 7,500 years ago. We know the precise year as a prediction from based on the evidence of the Mahabharata text itself. We know Mahabharata text itself, all the evidence, when we solve it like a jigsaw puzzle. Now that's astronomy evidence plus chronology evidence. It says Mahabharata what happened 5561 BCE. Then chronology evidence, one piece, it says Krishna's Dwarka was flooded and destroyed by gushing sea waters 36 years after the Mahabharata war. So 5561 BC plus 36, it takes you to 5525 BC. So we know the exact predicted year, predicted in the sense given by Mahabharata. And now we are looking for, say, suppose archaeology evidence. People in India, everywhere, some of the decorated folks, okay, they have been awarded and rewarded with Indian awards, like Indian, what you call, constitutional awards or whatever you want to call them. All kinds of awards, so-called, I'm saying, the famous Indologists in the Western world. I mean, famous Indologists in the Western university system are absolutely clueless. But even those so-called pro-Indic researchers in India are extremely clueless, Adityaji. Now see, being clueless is not a problem. Okay, ignorance, adnyan is not an issue. Adnyasya shraddha dhanasya samshayatma vinashati. But if you have a shraddha, you can fix that problem. You say it so many times, and you know how that comes around. The problem is most of these so-called celebrities, doesn't matter which field, do not have Shraddha. That is the problem. But back to this, what I'm showing you here, right on this page, two pieces of evidence from two different parts of the world. And guess what? This is nowhere close to Krishna's Dwarka. So somebody will just say in their naivety, of course, what you say, the skim milk doesn't taste good, kind of thing, in that fashion. So why are you showing me this evidence if it is not at Dwarka? Well, the reason I'm showing this evidence is, if you to understand, appreciate, you have to know the science and not some complicated science. Adityaji will simply talk about the science that all of our audience member will say, yeah, I know that. Irrespective of their discipline of study, they may not be in a science discipline. That water, a fluid, but we will just stick to water, and let's specifically refer to seawater. Water always, when it's a continuous mass, it always attains the same level, same water level. That's just the nature of a fluid. In this case, we are talking specific liquid. What does that mean? When corrected for certain land related issues like a land subsidence, I will not make it technical. These any phenomenon, all the oceans of the world, actually most of the oceans, I should say, to be technically correct, are connected with each other. Most of the oceans, of the world, and so water levels will more or less over certain time will attain the same thing. Therefore, and we have a sufficient evidence, more than sufficient evidence. The evidence is so rich, Adityaji, it's tiring. And I'm just going to give you a glimpse of it. The one, I will take you to Dwarka, but what I'm showing you right now for this timing 5525 BC, on the left side, what I'm showing you, it comes from the border, okay, of Asia and Europe, which is like Turkey, Istanbul, and the Bosphorus Channel. This is a work of Columbia geologist, okay, Ryan and Pittman and few others. And what they showed, look at the numbers without going into technicality. I'm learning, by the way, not to go too much technical or not to go technical at all. Most people just, with the TV entertainment have fried their brains or have genetically modified their brains that they cannot take even little bit of science. That is the challenge. But you can just focus on the numbers. I mean, our audience wouldn't have a problem, but I'm talking of masses out there. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, these are, think of these, not think, they are, but I'm saying for a simple understanding, as empirical scientific parameters. Okay, it's like the concentration of oxygen isotope, concentration of carbon isotope, percentage concentration of calcium carbonate, goes on and on, titanium, calcium, and so many other parameters. Long story short, essentially the Black Sea was instantly formed in 5525 BCE. Okay, when whatever that global event was, and actually there is enough information about those global event or events because it wasn't one event. But people don't understand, Aditya, this basic stuff. So I never have a luxury, or I don't even see the need to go into the karya karana bhav, the causality, what caused this. And then some lazy folks will say, yeah, please explain it to us. No, have you understood this? And what are you doing about it? If you're not doing anything, you don't show any indication that you have understood this, there is no chance, or there is no point me talking about the other stuff. Okay, but so where I have drawn the line, and you can I'll take it back for a second, so you can see this is from research paper and from books, by the way, published books, published research paper, peer reviewed journals. This line is not drawn by me, or none of the lines, none of this is drawn by me, only that 5525 and that vertical line that I'm drawing right there. Okay, and if you look at the x-axis, that is the time, 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, and look where that line is, 7,500. That's where I have drawn. That's where the researchers from Columbia University, the geologists, are saying a sudden formation of Black Sea. So whatever that global event was, what seawater started rising, water in Atlantic went up, that water went into Mediterranean to Aegean Sea to Sea of Marmara, like around the Greece. We started with Greece and Aristotle around that, but this is, of course, 7,500 years ago, long time before Greeks existed. Okay, and then Sea of Marmara, and finally it broke through with a pressure through this Bosphorus channel, and salt water started pouring on the other side, which was otherwise a small lake, instantaneously. And again, people who don't understand science, they say, what do you mean by instantaneously? Well, don't ask me, go and read these books, go and read these papers, you will know. Because when you, Aditya, if you give something on a ready platter, people become even lazier and don't want to accept it. But then that is that problem. Adnyasya Shraddha Danasya Samshayatma Vinashyati. The folks don't even have a basic knowledge, and the folks don't have a Shraddha. What is the outcome? A total destruction, Adnyasya Shraddha Danasya Samshayatma Vinashyati. Total destruction because of the doubt. So people should therefore take to Swadhyay. What is this showing? All the 9 parameters showing instant formation of a Black Sea in 5525 BC, the year that is when Krishna's Dwarka was flooded. Exactly same phenomenon happening around the world. This is Turkey, border of Asia and Europe. Now, on the right side, if you look at it, do you know where it is? Not far from where we are, at least where I am. This is in the Caribbean. Okay, was Caribbeans. This is particular was from Bahamas. This wonderful research done by alumnus, where we both studied same place, University of Alberta, but also at the same time. It's just that Aditya ji, he and me never knew each other when we were studying there. He was in geology, I'm in chemical engineering. Professor Paul Blanchon. So beautiful research. So last 20,000 years, the sea levels are rising. That is now well known after the last glacial maximum. But there are these interruptions, like they are known as catastrophic rise event. So this event actually takes us to the time of Ramayana, but that's not the subject today. This is that event in the middle related to younger Dryas. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, that's say Graham Hancock and those people who are watching Ancient Apocalypse. Okay, it's on a Netflix documentary of Graham Hancock. That's related to this particular flood, by the way. I mean, he talks about some other things like what do you call the comet hitting comet parts. Yeah, that's different meaning it's connected. I don't know if the comet hit or not, but whether it hit or not, something happened that led to this flood. There are terrestrial explanations also for this flood. I'll not go into it, but let's come to Krishna's Dwarka. The precision and accuracy, Aditya, I'm referring to 7.6 Ka, which is what 7,600 before present. Take out 2000, that takes you to 5,600 years before 5,600 BCE, and the standard error. See these vertical bars that you see, like the line and then the black dot, or line and then the hollow dot, and so on. These are error bars. So that's like whatever that error is. That's how science works. Many people. I told you some extremely naive researchers, and they happen to be Mahabharata researchers. They will look at, say, for example, a bar like this, or this particular, take this event. And so what happens? Say, suppose you start from here, right? It suddenly starts here and it goes here, like that gap. And so if you draw vertical lines here, here, and that may be 200 years, that may be 500 years, that may be 1,000 years. And I know, I mean, they consider themselves Mahabharata researchers. Do you know what they will say looking at that gap of 500 years and 1,000 years? So they will say what Nilesh is claiming, 5525 BCE, is only 1% probability. Aditya ji, I have no other words, and I'm not mincing words. I don't have to. We have the great gurus like Samartha Ramdas Swami and Madhvacharya and the Jnaneshwara Eknath. I mean, in my parampara, I would say my sampradaya, very clearly saying. I mean, I can sometime, because of the language issue, I don't quote. I can sometime, quote you from Jnaneshwari right here and Dasabodh. How crisp and clearly they say who is Murkha. I'm going to use that definition, and I say anyone just simply in their naivete, looking at a data like this, looking at the standard error, or looking at the range, and they're looking at the range of 200, 300, 500 years, and then in a naive fashion saying, oh, so therefore the probability of that happening in 5525 BC is 1%, is a stupidity of highest order. Okay, there is no word for this. And we should not mince words, because just like the false celebrities that you talked about, if we allow this nonsense, okay, to just like say, TK, the person is naive, just ignore. Of course, we ignore. Therefore, I don't take the name. I prefer not to take names as much as possible. Not that I have a problem. I would love to take names. Not I'm scared either. When appropriate, I do take the name. The point is, the reason I don't take the names as much as possible, because it is not about the person. Because to err is human. We all make mistakes. The problem becomes worse when, even when the mistake is pointed out, these people are not willing to understand, willing to accept. That's the kind of stupidity, that's the kind of arrogance, ignorance that people are filled with. And guess what? So that is their problem. But the common audience also doesn't say anything because of this sense of false celebrities. Okay. They are in every field. They are not just in the media. They are just not in the movie industry. They are also there in the research area. But back to this. So just like you see here 5525 BCE, guess what? Okay. Right there. That is that catastrophic rise event 3. Suddenly 6.5 meters rise far away from Dwarka. I'm going to take you to Dwarka. This is in the Caribbean. Okay, this was in Bahamas. Okay, and so the error bar that you see around 7.6 or 5600 BC is plus minus 100 years, 130 years. The point is 5525 falls inside it. Again, important point is we are not looking at this data to decide when Mahabharat war happened or when Krishna's Dwarka was flooded and destroyed. We know from the Mahabharata when Krishna's Dwarka was flooded and destroyed, that was 5525 BCE. What we are showing here, looking at, is the corroborative evidence, which is also validating the veracity, it proving, it's validating, it's corroborating that yes, that absolutely is right. This all evidence points and supports that. That's the idea. This data doesn't tell us when Mahabharat war happened. This data by itself doesn't tell us when Krishna's Dwarka. It's not, data doesn't speak. That is therefore the rest of the world, Aditya ji, that's another false celebrity point, celebration you can say. Rest of the world, to them, history, in fact, the Indians, the word is itihasa, not history. But let's, as a crude translation, let's continue with that. For rest of the world, the history means dirt archaeology. And that disease, okay, that chronic disease is also rampant mainstream among Indian researchers. This is all archaeology. Many Indian researchers will simply, Indian archaeologists will keep mum, Aditya ji. They are keeping mum right now. They don't say anything. They are actually must be busy trying to figure out some jugaad to say why this is not archaeology evidence. I tell you that. I bet they will come out with some other gyan, a gyan, but they think it's a gyan in just no time. These are points, look where they are. One is from Turkey. Another one is from the Caribbean, pointing to 5525 BC. Back to the Caribbean for a minute. Look at, all our audience can relate to these places. North Florida, like South Florida, think of a Key West, okay? Grand Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, St. Thomas Island, St. Croix, Barbados, Panama, all these places. Guess what? Sorry, I thought there was a line. Yeah, it will come. After Bahamas, same Professor Paul Blanchard generated research in multiple locations in the Caribbean, and here whatever 9 or locations, but 7 locations or multiple locations. Again, when adjusted for land subsidence, guess what? 5525 BCE. Here, if you go now, suddenly from Caribbean, I'm going to take you all the way. Get guys, pack your bags and jump on Qantas Airlines, Qantas Airways. We are going to Australia, to Great Barrier Reef. What you are seeing here on the right side is a Great Barrier Reef. Okay. And look at this, a water pulse. Again, somebody will say, but hold on, Nilesh, you are showing line here at 5525 BCE, but this water pulse is not at 5525 BC. That goes like to, say, if you take the broad interval, confidence interval, then it is going to even 10,000 years ago. Well, precisely for that reason, if that is somebody's confusion, it's a very good confusion. The person needs to get to start studying how science works, how empirical data is collected, how the models are built, how the research is done. Look at the actual data points. See, this is the curve. because water is rising for last 20,000 years. Why just 10,000? But look at the data points, and these are various. Look at that, all the different places, different data points, different sites in the Great Barrier Reef. What is the big summary? That sudden pulse when that it came. And remember, for example, this is the height, right? The depth. Suppose, just so that you understand, I should have drawn the line. Suppose the horizontal line, example, let's just imagine the horizontal line is here. Okay, I draw from here, and what I mean by that is that was the altitude of Krishna's Dwarka. So that sudden seawater pulse, of course, flooded and destroyed Krishna's Dwarka, but it did not stop there. It's not like the seawater flood came just to destroy Krishna's Dwarka and then the job is done. No, it continued to rise. So it has gone even above that. And actually, we have that evidence all around the world, including the Dwarka area, including Gujarat. So these are the data points. But notice what happens. The peak was right at that 5525 BC. That's the highest level it reached. And after that, either it stayed constant or actually it went down. So that's also another very fascinating thing. So imagine like somebody into that 3000 BC crowd, there are hundreds of folks, okay, thinking Mahabharata war happened there for whatever reasons, I don't know, because Adityaji, there is nothing, nada, not even a single reference. And I don't mean just astronomy or non-astronomy, in Mahabharata text that will allow anyone meaning anyone sensible, anyone with a common sense, anyone with a scientific acumen, anyone with a Vijnana Buddhi, anyone with a decent knowledge of Tarka Shastra, Tantra Yukti, to claim anything in this 3000 bucket. In fact, this is 5000 years ago is like a 3000 BC. That's what I'm saying. In fact, there is not even a single shred of evidence in the Mahabharata text that will allow anyone, any sensible person, to claim anything. I mean, claim the timing of Mahabharata war, forget this 3000 BC, anywhere from 4000 to 6000 years before, which is what? 3000 BC plus minus 1 year. This is how powerful the Mahabharata evidence is. But let's continue with the archaeology evidence we are looking at. So we looked at where? The Turkey, we looked at Bahamas, then we looked at additional 7 locations in the Caribbean. Then we went to Australia, east part of Australia, northeast corner of Australia, Great Barrier Reef, those who have been there, Gold Coast and that area, Brisbane area. Okay, now I will quickly take you to the west coast of Australia. Okay, this is again a southwest corner. I don't know. I mean, there is not even one big any distinct city there in that area. So what is taking you? And people say, oh, but how is that evidence possible? Guys, read oceanography. What do we have? If you go back to 150,000 years, okay, and this is very consistent, of course, this is coming from Australia, is we know the sea level rise. So Adityaji, even for example, that's not to say, therefore, whether I don't want to get into the issue of global warming or so on, but look at it. This is not the first time global warming is happening, okay? If there is that global warming, and I'm not like saying there is no global warming, that can be very well seen, the temperatures are rising. But that is also a cyclic phenomenon, and we have to deal with that in the most appropriate way by being a decent behavior, how we use things, how we recycle things, and so on. Carbon levels, everything matters. But if you go back, say, 125,000 years somewhere there, the seawater levels were similar to what we have today. Okay, and then it has gone up and down. Those people who also follow Rupa Bhattiji's work and her conversations with Adityaji, this is the area she has done amazing work with based on Maitrayani Upanishad. Okay, the Ikshwaku king Brihadratha, 34,500 BCE. The Brihadratha is saying the oceans are drying, the pole stars are moving, and all the description looks. That's why he's saying oceans are drying. Water level going from whatever this level to whatever this level, 30, 40, what is the unit? Meters? I think it's meters. Yes, 30, 40 meters, oceans receding. Of course, Brihadratha is saying the oceans are drying. This is that 34,500 BCE time period, which you can timestamp with the astronomy. the sophisticated astronomy of India, because astronomy is time. Okay, that's the best part, that one of the best thing that Indians did. Quickly back to this, our time frame and Krishna's Dwarka. What I'm showing you here on the left side is basically this small rectangle. Okay. Now notice what is happening. So here it is showing a blip, and somebody will say, oh, how come you're not showing the blip? Well, go and you can read that original paper. The important point is they have drawn this line. Actually, it's coming from these data points, based on these data points. Again, a very consistent picture. What is happening in 5525 BC, just like you saw at Great Barriers Reef, or in the Caribbean, or in Turkey, a sharp peak at 5525 BC. Water continued to rise beyond that point for next 500,000 years. And after that, it is going down. Okay. For example, look at this 5000, which is the favorite period of hundreds of Mahabharata researchers, okay, with their claims, 3000 BC. There is no flooding. There is no chance for a flooding. Actually, if anything, the water is receding. This evidence is around the world. But let me quickly fast forward. This one is from, on the left, I mean, it is from, the Americans know this very well, Adityaji. Kuchi tunnels, okay? Kuchi tunnels. Sometimes it's used in a vulgar sense, what it means. But this is the amazing network that was created in Vietnam during the Vietnam War by the local population. Okay, it was like a 250 miles or 50 kilometers long network underground that people could quickly move from one area to another, from one side of the mountain to another, and so on. Okay, that is that area. And the river, by the way, not many people may know it. You don't have to go back too far. You just go there 300, 400 years in our history. And that was the kingdom of Champa. Okay, a thriving Hindu civilization was there. Okay, now communism kind of destroyed it. And then Americans destroyed it. But a thriving Hindu civilization. Kingdom of Champa. Aditya, you will love this. One of the Janapadas, okay, now what we call Vietnam. Do you know what was the name of that? Something that you can relate to your place too and my place. Panduranga. I don't know if you knew that. The Janapada is called Panduranga. Yes. There is a Vijaya, Indrapur, Amravati, and so on. This is the different Janapadas of now what we call Vietnam. It is the kingdom of Champa. This is the Red River. Again, Red River and Delta Formation. But quickly, if you, again, the x-axis is the time axis, y-axis is the sea level rise. Again, notice this pulse. This pulse perfectly matches with what I showed you in the Caribbean as catastrophic rise event 3. This one matches with catastrophic rise event 1 at the time of Ramayana. Okay. I don't want to go into Ramayana discussion because that will be a digression. I want to focus on Krishna's Dwarka. But what is the point again, guys? This is from Vietnam. The data from Vietnam matches one-on-one with data from Caribbean, 7 different locations, matches one-on-one. Of course, that's not that much of a surprise, matches with Australia, East Coast or a West Coast. But Australia is relatively closer. So people will say, okay, that makes sense. But West Indies and the Turkey, okay. And let me quickly bring you to Dwarka itself. This is Dwarka. This is the Arabian Sea data. Actually, multiple studies, 7 key studies, review papers, and that data feeding those review papers comes from 30 other studies. Then that was also combined with all the data that I showed from Caribbean, okay, just to say what's happening around the world. But this is for Arabian Sea. Again, what do you see? The x-axis is scaled slightly different. Different meaning the way they have used it is nicer. Actually, it's easy to understand. So this is our time, 2000 CE. You go back 1000, 0. That's here. And then you go into the negative territory or a before common era. So 1000 before BCE, 2000, 3000, 4000, 5000, 6000. Again, I'm drawing a line at 5525 BCE, middle of 6th millennium BC. This sudden sea level peak was at Dwarka was Adityaji 15 meters. And I think we have done an episode on this. 15 meters, 15 meters. That's 50 feet plus sudden sea level rise. Again, people don't understand sudden sea level rise. They are going to look at this peak, look at the range, and then bring their naivety and just say, oh yeah, well, that's a 1% probability. Utter stupidity. Guys, let those naive Mahabharata researchers do what they want to do. As a consumer, don't fall for that stupidity. Okay. Which is like not understanding the science. Samartha Ramdas Swami says, Akshare galuni vachi, kate gali padarichi, nigana kari pustakachi to yek murkha. That's what Ramdas Swami is saying. Now, here, Ramdas Swami is talking about the Shabdajna, like how you are reading the book. Same thing applies, Akshare galuni vachi, like filtering certain thing, cherry picking. So if you are looking at the empirical data, you have to understand the empirical data on its own terms, not your naivety. Okay, not based on your ignorance. And that's why somebody is saying, oh, the 1% probability is utterly stupid. Okay, so this is 5525 BC. Now, guess what? Just like I showed you everywhere, even you can see it here. It is also true in other places I showed you. The water continue to rise. Even if you look at the Red River in the the what you call the Sea of Champa, now they call it China Sea, Southern China Sea. It used to be called Sea of Champa. Okay, so the water continued to rise. That's also you see here in Dwarka. So Aditya ji, the current water levels that you see on the Gujarat coast are actually here. But when the flooding of Krishna's Dwarka happened, at that time and immediately after that, on an average, the water level went 3 meters above. This explains why places like Lothal and Dholavira were ports for 2000, 3000 years until like a 1500 or 2000 here. 2000 is here. 1500 is somewhere here until 2000, 1500 BCE, why Dholavira was a port, while Lothal was a port, because of this additional sea level rise. Okay. Now look at this 3000 BC, the favorite area of like thousands of, not thousand, at least hundreds of Mahabharata researchers. There is no flood. If anything, if you look at certain data points, the water is actually going down. I said the same thing here. Okay, if you look at 5000, which is the BP, which is 3000 BC, water level is steady or going down. It's not going up. I showed the same thing in Great Barrier Reef and so on. Let me see quickly a few others. And I'll do, yeah. This one, Aditya ji, it's again, I have done a separate episode, and people, just like people watch Sattology, they can, if more curious, they can go type Nilesh Oak and see watch some of these. We have covered this on our show also, Sattology. This one is a tsunami record from the time of flooding and destruction of Krishna's Dwarka. This comes from Aceh Banda, part of Indonesia, very close to India. Like Aceh Banda is like you can jump, I'm talking metaphorically speaking, jump from the tip of Aceh Banda. Aceh Banda is the tip of Sumatra Island, from there to Andaman Nicobar. Okay, it's literally that close. It's actually the same plate there, same area flowing there. So the record, tsunami records, is preserved. I'll not spend much detailed time here, just by saying that it began with that first evidence came from Krishna's Dwarka. This is 5525 BC here. This is a evidence that has gathered, that has nature. Okay, the Prakriti has gathered it for us in a cave on the island of Sumatra. And then you see this, but the big point I want to tell you is this. From 3000, this is 5500 before present, from 3500 BCE to 1500 BCE, which is what? Which is where possibly out of 130 Mahabharata researchers, 100 plus researchers and their claims for the Mahabharata war, this is a decisive proof that all of them are decisively false on an archaeology evidence. Now, is this the only evidence? No, of course not. Whole entire Mahabharata evidence is saying anything between, between 2000 BC and 4000 BC just cannot happen. But if that is, the astronomy is not sufficient for, the thick and dumb brains of Kali Yuga cannot grasp that. Here is archaeology evidence. Again, this is like people are saying, where is the skim milk? Okay, because they cannot digest rabdi, they cannot digest basundi, and now the skim milk doesn't taste good. Okay, they lose the taste. They get bitterness in their mouth. Again, I'm talking metaphorically. Why? This is not, Adityaji, this line is not drawn by me. This is from a paper, 2018. By the way, in the Twitter world, Savitri Mumukshiji brought this to my attention. Huh? This is how all the Bhakta forces come together. Okay. And this is from that paper, 2164-year gap. And what was I saying? Now, Aditya, I'm saying this from 2011. I'm just saying there is not, this is from a Mahabharata text, and now this is oceanography evidence. I'm saying there is not even a shred of evidence in the Mahabharata text that takes you 3000 BC plus minus 1000 years. You can take my old talks, from whatever, 2012, 14, 15, whatever. I said there is not even a single piece of evidence that takes you there. Now, this paper has absolutely nothing to do with the Mahabharata. They may not be even aware of what Mahabharata is. They are saying there is this 2164-year period. What was I saying? 3000 BC plus minus 1000 years. Okay, so that's a 2000-year period. I was saying from astronomy perspective, even from an archaeology perspective, there is no shred of evidence for any flooding, any instant flooding, any generic flooding, anything during this time. This is how powerful this evidence is. And now when I presented it and I put it on, say, Twitter, and then people just go on all kinds of stupid tangents. So that is that Samartha Ramdas Swami's thing. Akshare, what is this person telling you? Do you comprehend this? Why do you go somewhere else? अक्षरे गाळूनी वाची काते घाली पदरीची निघा न करी पुस्तकाची तो येक मूर्ख. अक्षरे गाळूनी वाची, meaning first thing, whatever has been said, they don't comprehend. काते घाली पदरीची. And then the person will say, but hold on, my question to you is like a tsunami happening on the east coast, because this is in Aceh Banda like this, it cannot affect the Dwarka on the west coast. Guys, is this your opinion? Is this your considered scientific judgment, or you are just blabbering? The answer is C, by the way. The C is the correct answer. They are blabbering. Because if they look at this evidence, they will know. I mean, I'm not talking of their qualification in the sense of do they have a PhD in oceanography? Guys, PhD in oceanography is not needed. In fact, these days, Adityaji, just based on my experience of last 12 years, okay, a PhD, there is a saying with the Buddhism, okay? I don't know if you have heard this. Maybe I'll find the quote, many quotes on this. He says, if Buddha comes to you, okay, it goes in a different ways. He says, run away from him or shoot him or something of that effect. It's to be taken humorous and metaphorically. The point is, Buddha won't come and tell you, something like this. So I'm just going to use that. Like today, if somebody comes and says, oh, I'm a PhD in this and I'm an expert, I'm scared. Scared meaning not physically or emotionally scared. I'm saying just stay away from this guy. Okay. In a way, I think many times these people are brought together with these false celebrity or titles like the PhDs. They don't understand, but they start blabbering. Akshare galuni vachi, kate ghali padarichi. Then they will say, but if it is happening on the East Coast, they don't know the simple principle of a water. The tsunami will not have an effect on the West Coast Dwarka. Have you checked? Have you checked the data on the West Coast? I mean, why this careless stupidity? I mean, there is a stupidity and then there is this careless stupidity. Okay. So suddenly tsunami. So now the person is damn stuck in the tsunami. It's like a skim milk does not taste good. Okay. And rabdi, the person cannot digest. Okay. These are physical, but these are problems of intellectual diarrhea, mental diarrhea. I mean, these are the problems, And then somebody, by the way, will look at these cluster tsunamis. That's another problem. Not understanding basic tenets of science, necessary and sufficient conditions, or what Krishna says to Uddhava. Just looking at one or two things is not enough. Shruti pratyaksham aitiyam anumanam chatushtayam pramaneshu anavasthanat vikalpat savirajyate. Taittiriya Brahmana is saying the same thing. It just replaces Shruti Pratyaksham, it replaces Smruti Pratyaksham Aitiyam, Anumanam Chatushtayam. Otherwise, exactly the same thing. So somebody will look at these 1500 tsunamis, and there are jokers in that area. I'm not making up this story. There are jokers in this area. Of course, they are not aware of this research, nor they will talk about this research. Why they will not talk about this research paper? Because if they talk about this, they also have to talk about 5525 BCE. Okay, so they will keep mum. Okay. But what will they say? Oh, yeah, there are this series of tsunamis. That must be the Krishna timing for Krishna's, flooding and destruction of Krishna's Dwarka. Okay, not a bad starting point. Now, is there anything in the Mahabharata text that takes you there? Zero. Zero. Nothing that takes you there to 1500 BC. So, which school did you guys go to? What did you study? When it came to logic, when it came to Tantra Yukti, Tarka Shastra, Vijnana Buddhi, what did you do? And the time is not gone. You don't have to go back to school. I mean, pick up a book of Nyaya Shastra, Nyaya Darshana, pick up all the Shad Darshanas, pick up book of Sir Karl Popper, pick up book of Vinoba Bhave. I mean, there is no dearth of it. The J.D. Pierce, Richard Feynman. I mean, there is no dearth of these books. Become educated. If by that same logic, Aditya, this is last evidence here, 2000, this last peak you see, it is a tsunami occurring in 2004. This is that evidence, by the way, and I'm just showing you one slide out of 15 different pictures from that paper. So by that, for very naive logic, somebody may even look at this 2004 peak and say, why not flooding and destruction of Krishna's Dwarka in 2004? Well, the simple answer, my dear friend, in that case would be, because if you look at the Mahabharata text, which is a primary text for Mahabharata, there is nothing that, no evidence there that brings you to 2004. In fact, all the evidence, entire evidence of Mahabharata will not allow you to claim anything after 4500 BC, anything after 5000 BC. Don't waste your time. So, for example, this is 5525 BC, but there are tsunamis here. So why not some tsunami here? Well, exactly for the same reason. One must understand necessary and sufficient conditions. Some evidence of sea level rise, tsunami, seismological event like an earthquake, possibly you would expect if something has happened, then something must have happened. Just like, the earthquakes in LA and San Francisco area, going back last 30 years, but of course, 100 plus years. So definitely we find some evidence. But here you may find tsunami evidence, but is there any evidence from Mahabharata text that takes you there? The answer is no. Therefore, there were tsunamis, but those tsunamis had nothing to do with flooding and destruction of Krishna's Dwarka. Only one matches is the 5525 BC. That is what we mean by scientific acumen, Vijnana Buddhi, necessary and sufficient conditions. Again, this one is Nelson Bray, Fraser, Coleman Smith. This is Aditya Ji. I'm just guessing. But yeah, I think so. Do you know where this is coming from? Surprise, surprise. How consistent is evidence? So suddenly here I have taken you to Indonesia. How about this is Mississippi? Mississippi in Louisiana. Okay, let me draw this line, 5525 BC, sudden peak. Kind of not surprising if you notice that the Caribbean is next to it, but this is even a delta formation in Mississippi capturing this data, multiple studies, by the way. And I'll just quickly wrap up. I don't need to, as I said, at some point, the value of additional evidence basically gives you diminishing returns because the point is well made. But I keep on doing this because the Kali Yuga brains have become, in Marathi we call it mattha, have become so dead, okay, that just like a nama japa, keep on doing it. You have to keep on doing it to keep the cobwebs away, and that's why the additional evidence is therefore very good. Yeah, these different locations. I mean, if simple tangents can do the magic. If you don't understand standard error and carbon dating and how the accelerated mass spectrometry works and something, guys, just draw lines through the data that tells you, where the things are happening and so on. Okay, just like this. Quickly, last slide summary. Right now what I shared with you possibly were like 4, 5, 6 location maximum. What I'm showing you on the map is like 20 locations, and this is not the whole data. This is again just a glimpse of it. But look at where the data point is. By the way, for the benefit of people, this is Dwarka. Okay, I'm done and I'm going to stop here. This is Dwarka here. Okay, this is Pumpuhar. Amazing evidence. I did not show Pumpuhar evidence today. Amazing evidence from the east coast of India, from Tamil Nadu. This is Aceh Banda, that last tsunami records that I showed. Okay, this is Andaman Nicobars are here. Okay, this effect, it's not like a tsunami happening here. No, the cause of tsunami is somewhere happening in the world. Okay, I will not mention that because that's a different subject. It is causing ripples everywhere on the west coast of India, Dwarka, on the east coast of Tamil Nadu, here in Caribbean, River Mississippi, Florida, Maine, Atlantic. I mean, I did not cover Warden area like Netherlands, Dogger Bank, Atlantic France, the France coast on the Atlantic side. This is the Black Sea Formation. Buenos Aires, guys. Beautiful Buenos Aires, okay, Tierra del Fuego. I was also in Tierra del Fuego going back to 20 plus years. Okay, we installed power turbines there, gas turbines. South Africa, like Cape Town area, okay, wherever, Philippines, Malay, Thai, Sunda Shell, guys. That's how this evidence is. I mean, after that, somebody doesn't get it, you have to say thank you very much. Okay, but please, I don't have a time for you. That's the kind of impressive evidence is there around the world. So people say, but where is the archaeology evidence? Well, I don't know what school you went to. If after seeing this you don't see the archaeology evidence, guys, not guys meaning the audience, I'm saying whoever say that, they're incapable of understanding what archaeology is. Aditya, back to you. Sorry if I went over time, but back to you.
No, amazing evidence. And actually, the Dwarka's dimensions are also very differently mentioned in Mahabharata. It's a very huge area because people are only searching in the coastal areas. And they're trying to put in the small creek which goes in, they're searching over there.
You mean like Surat and that area? Yeah. That was all civilizational area, but don't necessarily look for Dwarka there,
Dwarka. You can't look because Dwarka is very clear. On the east is Revatak, on the west is the Golden Mountains, on
Correct.
the north is the Hemavantan, Vedumanta, and the south is the Indradhanush type of island, which is still visible.
Yes,
but it is under the sea.
Correct. So what you just said, that Dwarka also, people should not look for a pointed place either. Just like
it's a huge area.
And just like we talk of a Janapada, right? I mean, like a Janapada kind of. So it's a broad area. There is one city, like say if you go New Delhi, or if we talk now New York City, but New Jersey, somebody living in New Jersey is very well connected to New York City, or why the New Jersey is populated is because of New York City,
That's right. And also from Fort Lee, you can take a boat, or you have to go all the way to George Washington Bridge and then cross it and then come further. So it's amazing. We have shown these slides before also. But
Dwarka, we looked at Dwarka, we looked at Pumpuhar, and Turkey also possibly, right? And maybe this, but not the 20. And even I did not share even the 20 pieces of evidence today. I just showed the last map. Yeah.
And people who ask for archaeological proof, so it's a caveman's mindset. I was reading the Socrates. So cave, he mentions his philosophy in caves or forms. I think Plato does that in caves and forms. So that cave is stuck in the Western psyche. And the cave is stuck in Indian psyche also. So they won't imagine the Vyasdev is such a great person. He's going to sit in a cave whose entire empire, Hastinapur empire, which is all Jambudvip, we already talked about it.
Correct.
The wealth of that empire is willing to serve him whenever he wants.
Yeah.
And and then he will sit in a cave. So we are sitting searching for these, like लोग मुझे आके बोलते हैं, we saw the Pandav Gufa. I say, are you crazy?
Hmm.
Pandav are the ruler. They will sit in a gufa
Hmm.
because the caveman mindset, the European caveman mindset, is stuck there.
And through this false celebrity kind of thing, with that inferiority complex, has been so much internalized within Indian intellectuals, Indian researchers. It just, I mean, I feel like breaking my head. No, I won't do that. But I'm just saying, like, what is it that they don't get it? But I don't have to break my head on that. Samartha Swami has described the lakshana of this murkha and padata murkha, the fools and learned fools, 400 years ago. Anyone has to do is open the Dasa Bodha. And I don't say this in a derogatory sense, frankly, Aditya ji. I mean, if there is anything, I don't have a disgust for them. I mean, people, when I talk in Abhinavesh, people may think there is a disgust. There is no disgust. Ishware tad adhineshu, Krishna is telling Uddhava, not Krishna, it's a Shukha Goswami, or you would know better, whoever is mentioning. Ishware tad adhineshu, balisheshu, dvishtatsu cha, prema maitri, krupopeksha. There's a Madhyama Bhakta Lakshana. It's like krupa. You feel karuna. What is the English compassion,
Compassion.
right? You feel sad कि भाई क्यों नहीं समझ में आ रहा है इनके. What is it that's stopping them from comprehending such basic stuff?
I think people have not understood the meaning of Sukriti. That Sukriti is actually helps.
That is the answer. Until that happens, won't happen.
See,
Sorry, I'm interrupting you. Go ahead. Yeah.
Patratva and Sukriti, people
Hmm.
don't understand. But people think of Dushkriti as Sukriti. Dushkriti,
क्या करे,
Kriti
right?
Krityascha. 15th
Hmm.
chapter Bhagavan says Kriti Krityascha. One who understands, like, he can do amazing things, like little bit of faith, little bit of Shraddha you need, just a little bit.
Correct.
1%
And
Shraddha and you build on it.
yeah, that on the Shraddha, I think that is also a problem. So how powerful is Shraddha? That is not understood by people. They
No,
they think Shraddha is a blind faith.
no.
You know, so that's why Adnesha Ashraddha Dhanasya Samshayatma. The problem is that, see, this is also happens. Couple more points quickly I want to make. Um, Many of these Mahabharata researchers, do you know what they will do? First, they will claim that Mahabharata evidence shows this. When I point it out that bhai, Mahabharata evidence is not going to take you to 3000 BC plus minus 1000 years, do you know what happens? Now that Shraddha comes into them. They said this is not written by Vasudev, or other modifications has happened into by Vasudev. So if that is the case, why did you before, until I question you and until I showed the naivety and stupidity of your claims, why were you quoting Mahabharata? Only when they are caught, now they say that Mahabharata cannot be trusted,
Yes,
Ramayana
sir.
cannot be trusted.
What about it? What about it? Now, very interesting thing you just said. And so, like, for example, when people talk about evidences and other things, this is the most scientific evidence. And now they will go back to where is the original text? What is the original texting? By the way, Vaishampayan is telling to Janmajaya the entire story of Mahabharata for the purpose so that he can put a right goal in front of him instead of getting into some
Hmm.
destructive sarpayagya.
Hmm,
That is the
hmm.
purpose. So Vyasdev says many things in conversations. So you have to collate all those things, and then you come
Correct.
to this kind of conclusion. And also, you cannot in the praman thing, you have to bring proofs because praman is meant to satisfy your own vritti,
Yeah.
and it's part of your jigyasa. Vritti is part of
Because we have to become Nisamshay, right?
Nisanshay.
Uh,
Exactly.
yeah.
And the last point I will say is for all the Mahabharata researchers who are doing it, that this show itself proved you in a scientific way the underlying reasons of how they rose, why they rose, ocean rose. It's a different discussion altogether.
And that can be done, by the way. Huh? Sorry, go
That
ahead.
can
Yeah.
be done. That can be
Yeah.
done. I mean, there can be many such incidents happening due to which the sea level rose. But the point is that the Dwarka went down is the material fact.
Mm-hmm.
And if you focus on that material, like if you want to do a scientific experiment, you need to have the purpose. So
Correct.
why did the Dwarka went down? That is the
Prayojan. Yeah.
question you're answering.
Yes.
And which year it happened, that you showed just now with two different proofs over there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
by the way, Dwarka is a very big city, much bigger than today's New York,
Yeah.
and fully populated, heavily populated. And there must be boats, there must be planes, because
There were
vimanas are all over
bridges.
the place. Bridges,
There were
yes,
bridges, and wonderful security arrangement. People should
wonderful.
take to Mahabharata Vanaparva,
Yes,
wonderful security
exactly.
arrangements.
Yes. And so thank you all for joining. And we can go on and on. Me and Nilesh can
Yes,
go
yes,
on this
but we
show.
have to stop somewhere. Sorry.
Thank you and namaste. And please like, share, subscribe, because this is what we want to bring up on the YouTube also, so more people can watch it. Namaste.
Namaskar.